Hey, what's going on? It's Coach Chris with the Strong by Design podcast, and I am sitting with a friend of mine by the name of Frank Rich. Hello, Frank.
How are we doing, Chris?
I'm doing great. Frank, I have Frank here today because Frank is he's a muscle, he's not just our friend here at Criticalbench. He is a muscle building expert. He is a bodybuilder, and he's the creator of Massthetic Muscle, and more on that later. But first and foremost, we are talking today about progressive overload, which is a pretty major concept in the world of muscle building, right? And you're going to share with us why progressive overload training is the best or not the best way to build muscle. So it's a question mark, right? So a lot of people, a lot of people who know muscle building, they know progressive overload, they instantly think like, okay, that's the key to my muscle building journey. But before we get to that, tell me a little bit more about you, about your background in muscle building. And then people will be like, oh, okay, I'll listen to what he has to say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, Chris, thank you for having me here today. I'm very honored to be sharing some time and hopefully bringing some insight and some value to your audience. In terms of my background, I mean, I can go as far back as really 20 years. I guess is the first time I stepped foot into a gym at the age of 15. And just like so many, young boys or young men out there, it was to overcome insecurities and self-doubts within myself. But yeah, I've been training myself for almost 20 years.
You were like that typical tall, kind of thin guy.
No, I was the complete opposite. I was, I was a bigger child. I was
you were
a huskier, kind of overweight.
You had my
kid.
problem.
Yeah, so I was the kid, in his teenage years that didn't want to take his t-shirt off. And growing up in Florida, that's a big deal.
Oh yeah.
You're at the beach, you're at pools constantly. So yeah, I was a little bit insecure in how I looked. And as I've gotten older, I've realized it was not my genetics. It was not, anything other than really kind of the lifestyle that really my parents had taken us into. Health wasn't a big part of our family dynamic back then. So no, I wanted to transform my body. I wanted to build muscle so I could gain confidence and just feel better about the way that I looked. And at the age of 15, I can remember walking into a gym in Land O'Lakes, Florida. It was a Gold's Gym, kind of like a very bodybuilder-esque type gym. Eddie Guerrero was a pro wrestler at the time, lived around the corner from me. So he was in there every single day.
Oh, wow. Cool.
So right out the gate, I got to experience some high-level bodybuilder type training. And I was definitely a wrestling fan growing up, which is funny because nowadays it's probably the most frequent question I get from a stranger is, are you a professional wrestler? So it's just funny how when I was a young kid, I looked up to them so much. And I'm 6'3", 250. So it's and wrestling is a big part of the Tampa culture.
Yes.
There's a lot of pro wrestlers that live here. WWE has had a big presence as far as their training facility here. But yeah, so I walked in the gym at 15 and instantly became hooked on just the feeling of moving the weights around, throwing heavy stuff and instantly saw some changes in my body. And then immediately at 18, once I graduated high school, it was my second job, I guess you could speak, was literally training twice a day. Sometimes I'd go to the gym at 1 o'clock in the morning because the only time that I could get there. So, I've spent 20 years in the gym building my own body. And for about the past 15 years, I've held multiple certifications from the IFPA to a NASM certification to an ISSA certification. Training was never my full-time career, so to speak. Through my 20s, I always worked more in a kind of a corporate environment, but it was always something that was attached to me. And as far as the competitive aspect of bodybuilding, it's something I've been committed to doing for the last 10 years, competing for the first time in 2009 as a bodybuilder, dabbling in the WBFF Federation as a male muscle model, and then more recently as a classic physique competitor in the NPC as high as the national level competition. So, I have a background myself as far as transforming my body. I've also been very fortunate to work with some high-level mentors and coaches in the world of bodybuilding and strength training. And all the stuff we'll talk about, today is obviously stuff that's been passed down to me by some people that are, very intelligent.
Our close friend,
Ben
Mikulski.
One very
B-Pack.
close to you guys is Big B-Pack and the Muscle Intelligence MI40 brand.
Yeah.
So I have a working relationship with Ben currently. We get to spend a lot of time training together, going over a lot of the stuff we'll talk about today. A lot of this has been passed down to me, and then I've taken my own, spin and kind of have my own ideas and concepts on really how muscle building can best be applied to anybody. And then within the last 2 years, I have created my own brand, my own muscle building programs. I've been fortunate to work with thousands of men from all over the world, which is amazing. The time that we live in, where you can literally help somebody
who's in Australia,
3,000 miles away from you,
transform
their bodies. I'm very, very blessed and very fortunate to be able to do what I do now.
Yeah, we feel this very much the same way. Obviously, you're following in the footsteps of a lot of people that we've built relationships with at Criticalbench over the last 20 years. So it's pretty awesome. So define for someone who doesn't know. Because some of us aren't, we don't have this very extensive background or this, connection to some really brainy muscle guys.
Yeah.
Tell me, in your opinion, what progressive overload is and why most people have it wrong.
Yeah, well, I'll start by not even giving you my opinion of what it is. I'll give you the actual definition.
Right.
If you were to look in a dictionary.
Merriam-Webster. Here it is.
So progressive overload is defined as the gradual increase of stress placed upon the muscles or body through exercise. So let's break that down and let's think about what that really means. And most people assume progressive overload is simply adding more weight to the bar or more weight to a machine. And preface everything we speak about today, this is for people that are looking to build muscle. Progressive overload for strength training, progressive overload for powerlifting, progressive overload for athletic performance, and progressive overload for muscle building or hypertrophy are all defined and should be approached a little bit differently.
And this is where a lot of people have it wrong.
This is where a lot of people have it wrong, because simply taking the approach of increasing stress or increasing load means all I'm focusing on is moving more weight. So why that is wrong is our muscles respond to tension. That's the currency, or that's the language of muscular growth. Load and weight and resistance is simply a tool to create tension within a muscle. So if I'm in the easy example to explain it is probably using an exercise like a dumbbell bench press. And we'll use simple numbers. So if I'm doing a 100-pound dumbbell press, 100 pounds is in each hand, and my hands are perfectly above my elbows. That's the position that I'm pressing in. So I'm in this position and I'm pressing 100 pounds. And I do that for 10 reps. Most people are going to look at progressive overload as increasing the weight of those dumbbells. So I'm going to go from 100 pounds to 110 pounds. So I've increased the load by 10%. Well, load is only half of the equation of tension. There's load plus distance. So distance from the axis of the joint that's moving. Mm-hmm. So in a press, your shoulder is moving. So if I increase the weight in my hand by 10%, let's say 110 pounds, what most people are going to do, because they're going to try to make that weight feel easier, is your hands are going to slightly slide in. So now I've decreased the distance from the joint that's moving. So if that distance is greater than 10% moved in, now that makes up for that
10% increase in load.
Exactly. So have I done any more load or placed any more tension through my chest? Absolutely not. Same thing can be applied as if my elbows are perfectly perpendicular out from my body, but because my body wants to make it feel easier, I dip my elbows in.
Which is more powerlifting
Which
style.
is more powerlifting. You're incorporating more front delt. You're incorporating more tricep into that movement. If that move is greater than 10%, once again, that negates the increase of the load. So that's where most people have it wrong. They simply think if I increase the load, I'm increasing tension, and it's not. There's so many other variables that need to be accounted for first before you can look at increasing the load. So this is where muscle building has to start with execution. You have to standardize the stimulus of what you're doing first. So in order for me to increase the load, I have to make sure that my execution and my form of every single rep is identical. It's got to be the same.
And you're going to get to your 5, because that's the first of the 5 tiers for progressive overload.
Yeah.
Before we get there, and you can touch on that a little bit more. So we're obviously, number one, anyone listening who's interested in muscle, some people interested in muscle building are more interested in strength building or the power lifter's journey, which is how much more weight can I pick up or lift over my head. And that's a fine goal. There's nothing wrong with that.
100%.
Whether you compete, as a power lifter, or you just like to be a big, strong guy, that's fine. Other guys are purely interested in the look, the aesthetics. What does the mirror show me?
Yeah.
They don't really care how much is on the bar, but they do care about how good do I look with my shirt off when I'm at the beach?
Yeah, or shirt on. At the club, at dinner.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Aesthetics go so
and there's
far.
goal, and there's everything in between.
100%.
There's some guys want both, So obviously we're talking about the bodybuilder kind of versus the power lifter. If we had to label the two sides of it, but also you touched on something earlier before we started talking was the efficiency of a lift versus the inefficiency of a lift.
Yeah.
So as a muscle builder, pure muscle builder, you're trying to become as inefficient
as possible.
100%.
Yeah.
And someone listening is going to be like, what are you talking about? But we're not talking about performance here necessarily, or how much weight can I move.
Yeah.
We're talking about how isolated, how targeted, specific is this lift for muscle and the muscle I'm trying to impact.
Exactly. Yeah. And just to to touch on the point that you said.
Yeah.
Whether you're training for powerlifting, strength, athletic, if you're training for endurance, if you're training for muscle building, none of them are right nor wrong. It's what you want to do.
Right. That's it.
I'm here to provide the tools and knowledge on the muscle building world because that's what I love, that's what I enjoy, and that's what I'm most knowledgeable in. My expertise lays. So anybody listening out there is like, oh, Frank is against powerlifting, Frank is against performance training. That's not the case. They're all right, they're all wrong. CrossFit is great, yoga is great. Everything out there serves a purpose in the world. It's just what's going to be best for you. And I think that's where understanding where is your current objective and current goal first before you can determine what path you're going to go down and what principles you're going to apply. You have to identify what it is you're trying to accomplish. So no, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
In terms of the efficiency and inefficiency, it's a great talking point because as a power lifter, as a strength athlete, you're trying to incorporate as much of your body into a single lift as possible. This is what makes sports at the highest level so incredible is what these athletes are able to do. You see somebody on the football field and they're just able to generate so much force from their feet to their hips to their to their shoulders. It's incredible. But that's becoming efficient in your movement. That's getting everything working as one.
Right. Like if you ask somebody what are some of the key muscles in the bench press, the novice is going to say your pecs, your shoulders, your triceps.
Yeah.
But the guy who understands a truly strong bench press is going to say your foot position, where your glutes are, your pelvis,
your core,
your
lats,
all these other muscles, right?
Yeah.
Especially your back.
Yeah.
So and then before even you get to any of those other muscles. So sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no, and then when it comes to truly bodybuilding or muscle building. We have to understand that that's not what our body wants to do from an evolutionary perspective. Like, you look back in thousands of years of evolution of mankind, like there weren't cavemen that were, 6 foot, 240 pounds, lean, ripped, and shredded. Yet they were probably some of the most powerful creatures on the planet.
Absolutely.
So we're working against, in terms of building maximum amount of muscle, we're working against what our body naturally wants to do because we want to become efficient. We want to make things as easy as possible. We want to get as many muscles to move a weight because that's going to be less stress placed upon our bodies. So in terms of muscle building, you have to become inefficient. And what that means is you have to be able to eliminate every muscle other than the one that you're trying to use. So where we talked about a power lifter is going to drive through his feet. He's going to squeeze his glutes. He's going to get his back involved in the bench press. A bodybuilder is going to stabilize and brace all those muscles, but he wants the pec doing, if not 100% of the work, as close to 100% as possible. And for a lot of people, that takes them taking a step back from their training. I know I had to do this because, I wanted to be the guy that was bench pressing 315, 405. But when I really started understanding that this wasn't building my chest the way that I wanted to, you had to take a step back because if you're going to use 5 muscles to move a weight, obviously it's going to be a higher amount of load that you can move as opposed to just using 1. So for most people, understanding this principle, it takes swallowing the ego a little bit, swallowing the pride and saying, hey, I may have to decrease my loads first and learn to isolate and fully use the muscles that I'm trying to build.
Yeah. There was a video, it just reminded me as you're talking about this real briefly. There was a video when I did a batch of videos years ago with BPAC at Downtown Powerhouse Gym, and he put me on the flat bench, and he was having me do all these different things with just 135 on the bar.
Yeah.
I remember how heavy he made 135 feel based on what he was telling me to do with my hands, with my, with muscle contraction through my chest, where my elbows were, just everything. And I was like, wow, like 135 feels like 2 1/4 because what he was trying to get me to do.
Because now you've isolated that pec, and that pec doesn't know how much weight is on the bar.
No.
All it knows is how much bone-to-bone tension can you place through it. So it's funny because it wasn't BPAC that told me this, but I had another mentor years ago that said a powerlifter's goal is to try to make the heaviest weight feel as light as possible. Right. A bodybuilder's goal is trying to make the lightest weight feel as heavy as possible.
Yeah.
And it's cool. It's okay, but it's gonna work.
Well, that's just it. Different goals. So your 5 tiers of PO here. So you already touched on execution and form.
Yeah.
So until your form is absolutely perfection.
Perfect. Yeah. You have to standardize the stimulus first. And what that means is if you're training your chest through a dumbbell press, you're training your bicep through a bicep curl, you're training your legs through a squat or, a leg press or hack squat or leg extension, every single rep has to be identical. And this takes a stage of learning, for most people. There's your central nervous system doesn't want to do these things because it wants to take everything and try to move the weight. So recommending most people go through a 2, 3, maybe even 4 week kind of neurological based training phase. And this is where you're not focused on maximum contractions. You're not focused on, maximum intensity. All you're trying to do is you're trying to teach your body the proper way to isolate a muscle. You have to walk before you can run. So, it's slowing down, maybe even slowing down the reps. So 3, 4, 5 second concentrics, 3, 4, 5 second eccentrics, spending some time in a fully shortened position, spending some time in a fully lengthened position. And I'm sure, as you can attest, when you were working with BPAC, you're gonna get shaky, because that's your body. It's unused to going there, and when something gets uncomfortable and something gets challenging, like your body it's gonna fight against you. But what you'll notice is when you spend the time learning these proper things, is everything after this is so much more beneficial. So progressive overload. The first place you have to start is learning form, learning execution, and then really just standardizing that. And where we use the example of taking a 100-pound dumbbell in your hand, and instead of increasing 110 and sliding your elbows or sliding your hands in, use the same weight and maybe slide your hands out a little bit. Increase that distance from the access. With a squat, if you can get maybe just short of parallel, over the course of a few weeks, maybe you can reach parallel. Once again, making sure that all your form is staying a little bit tighter. With a leg extension, if you can't get all the way to the top, but over the course of a few weeks, increase the distance that the weight is traveling. So there's these variables that you can manipulate through form and execution that are going to allow you to progress for the first few weeks.
Right.
Yes.
Which everyone could probably use a little bit of a cleanup on. On some of this.
A great example, and Ben teaches this in all these camps is, Chris, you right or left-handed?
I'm actually ambidextrous.
You're ambidextrous. So
I'm all messed up. I write righty, but my athletics are left-handed.
So something he does, and I was sitting in a camp that he was teaching a few weeks back. This is where he teaches learning proper things and why you may have to slow down. So if I told you, Chris, right now to write your name with your left hand,
it'd be hard.
But if you took enough time and slowed it down,
you
could probably make it look as good.
Yeah, probably.
So in learning,
I'll do it here just because you got me to ask. It doesn't look too
so this is going to carry over to the second tier, because you were able to do that once. It took you some time. But if you were going to learn to do that and make it look perfect, would you practice it once a week to get better?
No. Probably 10 to 15 times a
day, right? So tier 2 of progressive overload is going to be increasing frequency.
Right.
So once we're learning the execution, once we're learning the form, in order to get more efficient or in order to get better at these movements, we're going to increase our frequency. So the amount of how often we're training. So if we're training chest once a week through the neurological phase or through the learning of execution, once we reach a point where we can standardize that to get better at it, we're just going to do it more frequently. So maybe going from once a week of training chest to training it twice a week, and then maybe 3 times a week. And once again, going back to what the definition of progressive overload is, which is the gradual increase of stress placed upon the body, doing something more frequently over the course of a week is increasing the amount of stress we're placing upon that body. Mm-hmm. So if I told you to, in 5 weeks from now, and you need to learn to write your name with your left hand as good as your right, you're damn well going to do it every single day, multiple times a day.
Absolutely.
So.
And I have a feeling that in 5 weeks, you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference between
exactly.
So it's like I could, even without doing it, I know it would be easy to get to that point.
Because we're training our central nervous system, we're training our bodies to go through that movement. So step 1, form, execution, master it, standardize your stimulus. Step 2 of increasing the stress you're placing upon your body is just doing it more frequently. Mm-hmm. Doing one exercise for your chest 2, 3, 4 times a week. Hell, do it 5 times. Like, do it every single day. You're teaching your body how to move through these proper patterns.
And there is a time and place for stuff like that. Some people go, well, you're not ever supposed to train a particular part of the body X amount of times a week.
Yeah.
But there are periods of time where you can get away with that.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
For a week here, a week there.
Yeah. This is a progression of what a program could be, or this is a progression of what a training cycle would be. If you're trying to learn the proper way to contract a muscle, doing it more frequently is going to accelerate you to get you to that next level faster.
And so our third tier is workload.
It's going to be volume or workload. Yeah. So now that we've standardized our stimulus, we've gotten better at these movements because we've done them more frequently. The next tier of placing stress upon the body or of progressing overload is going to be to do more workload. And that's going to be over the course of a week, but it's going to be spread out over multiple workouts or a single workout. Volume is, some people describe it as weight times sets or load times sets, so total amount of weight moved. Well, once again, our stimulus has to be standardized. So form has to be right. So we can then look at increasing workload, and that can be done through more exercises. It can be done through more sets, or it can be done through more reps. Like you don't need to increase load to increase total volume and increase total workload.
Right.
So
that's excellent. That's a good one. We practice volume. We here at the compound.
I'm a huge fan of volume training.
Yeah, I love it. And so number 4, what would be the 4th tier?
Yeah. So after you've reached a point where you've now maximized your volume, or you've spent some time increasing total workload, you can then take a look at increasing workout density. And workout density is the amount of work done over a specific period of time. So this can be utilizing supersets. It can be utilizing giant sets, trisets, rest pause, where you do a set of 6, a set of 8, take a 10, 15 second break, and then continue the workload. Basically, what we're looking to do is get more work done in a shortened period of time. Another way to maximize or utilize or manipulate workout density is shortening rest periods.
Yeah.
So if normally I'm training with a 90-second rest period, I want to increase that density. I'm increasing stress placed upon the body. I'm just going to shorten it to 60 seconds or maybe 45 seconds. So there's variables that can be manipulated throughout the workouts, throughout the weeks. They're going to allow you to, once again, progress overload because you're increasing the stress through manipulating a variable.
And what some people would have thought would be the first step or the first tiered progressive overload, we have it as the last.
I have it as the last.
Which is finally increasing what?
Increasing load. So
increasing the weight you're using.
Increasing the weight that you're using. And once again, this has to take you all the way back to step 1, though, because your stimulus has to be standardized. If you're increasing weight by 10%, that form has to remain perfect. And that's why I put it last. And I'm not saying load doesn't matter, that you can go out there with pink dumbbells and you can go out there with 5-pound plates and build muscle. Because if that's a weight that you can only use for that muscle, then yes. But you need to be using the maximum amount of muscle while maintaining perfect form. So I think a lot of people hear myself or hear Ben speak, and it's like, oh, they're advocating using light weights. And that's not the case. I lift just as heavy as the next guy.
Right.
I'm just making sure that the first the stimulus is standardized through the entire training process. So yeah, 5th and final, after you've increased your frequency, training density, volume, you've then earned the rights. I'd like to say you've earned the right to increase load.
So you got your four bars on your
exactly,
t-shirt.
Yeah.
You can put your 5th bar as load. Okay, so that's good. So anyone listening, I think, has a very clear understanding of your description.
Yeah.
Thorough description of progressive overload. Obviously, you've come and trained with us quite a bit here. And those listening, if you want to see Big Frank, all you have to do is go over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Criticalbench. We have a ton of video. And I mean, you've come and filmed with us, obviously, as well. And so Frank, is really a muscle building expert, and he's talked about a lot of different things in his videos. So I do encourage you to check out our YouTube channel, which is an amazing database, getting close to 3,000 total videos, I think, between our main channel and our secondary channel, or we might even be over that, which is crazy, but 1 video per day for over 5 years now.
That's amazing.
And we're not stopping anytime soon because we just enjoy it. And so currently, what's your training look like right now? Like, what's a typical week of training for you right now? And you can also get into why that may have shifted, because you've recently changed gears a little bit.
Yeah. So something. It's funny because I was here yesterday training with you guys, and you and I got into a conversation very early on. So yeah, going back 5 weeks ago, something I thought about for a few months was returning to the stage. So the last time I competed was in August of 2016. I did multiple shows. I placed 4th in the state of Florida for the Classic Physique, which placed me with the right to compete nationally, which I've yet to do yet, but I do still hold, the ability to walk onto a national stage. So August 2016 was the last time I competed. I've been very busy in going down these other avenues as far as building the Massthetic Muscle brand, building the platform that I have to reach and help more men, because I felt that was a better calling for me at the time.
Yeah.
Earlier this year, I had really started to kind of, get the itch again. My girlfriend is a WBFF pro. Watching her prep and then walk on stage, and then seeing some of my other friends kind of start to get ready for competitions kind of gave me the itch of, oh, wow, like I remember what that's like. Because it truly is an amazing feeling to transform your body that way over the course of 16 weeks. So I hired a coach about 6 weeks ago. We started a prep. Now halfway or a quarter into this prep, I had a vacation, which was planned at, the beginning of it. I took a trip to Cuba. I went on a cruise, just really kind of like got a chance to kind of decompress, de-stress, and just be present in life outside of work, business, and training and everything. Well, when I got back, I'd realized that the competition, I think, was a very selfish move for me. And I'm not saying that I won't ever do it again, but I had to come to the realization that what I'm trying to do in helping as many men as possible transform their bodies and transform their lives through intelligent muscle building, me selfishly prepping myself multiple workouts a day, eating everything I needed to do wasn't the right fit. So yeah, as of yesterday, I am no longer competing in a show that I planned on doing at the beginning of September. As far as training currently.
So that was the long that was the long way.
I'm sorry.
So, no. Yeah. That's good though, because I wanted you to come out with that. And, just going through the thought process behind that kind of a commitment. Because that's, for anyone listening who's maybe competed or not competed, it's a super big undertaking.
Yeah, you and I filmed a video on this last time I was here, and just talking about the realness of what it takes and the sacrifice, and making sure that you have a significant other, if that's in your life, that supports and understands that. And I have all of that. It's just the timing just wasn't right. So it was a big thing to swallow. Yesterday I kind of had this hour-long morning meditation where I really just kind of had to look at myself and think, is this what I'm ready to do for the next 10 weeks? Because I'm at that point now where it's like 10 weeks to go. You really got to hammer it home. And it just wasn't, and that's fine. And I'm glad I recognized it now, as opposed to a month out or 3 weeks, or even the day of the show, realizing that my heart wasn't in it.
Yeah.
But in terms of my training, not a whole lot is really going to change. At the heart of it all, what I talked about here today, and the world of hypertrophy building and muscle building is what I'm most passionate about. And I am fortunate to work with and be collaborating with some things with some of the most intelligent people in that world. So I get to experience every single day what that process is. But at the same time, I also get to come visit you guys once a week and do the style of training that's outside of what we talked about today.
Right.
Because that stuff's fun. And like I said at the beginning, if you enjoy it, do it. Just because I'm telling you that this is the best way to build muscle, if you're like, Frank, I just want to throw heavy shit around, go do that. That's, if that puts a smile on your face, if doing CrossFit is what you want to do, if going to Orange Theories is what you want to do, if standing on your head and balancing a brick on your foot is what you want to do, and
sounds fun to me.
If it makes you feel really good, then do it. Because if you dread this stuff that we talked about today, then you're not going to get the results out of it. You have to enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah, and for anyone, again, when we train here, it's very much kind of like where we are, and I say we, me, Mike, the founder of the business, and even Brian to a certain extent, where Mike and I are the over 40 guys. We're the OWGs. As a guy used to work for, OWG is old white guy. So I train like an old white guy, but in a fun way. And what I mean is, when I'm out there training, my intention is to always incorporate some athleticism, some elements of conditioning, some elements of bodybuilding.
Yeah.
It's just like a mishmash of like everything that I like in one workout.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what all our workouts are like. We do kind of standardized barbell and traditional dumbbell lifts. We hit some of the machines sometimes, but we're on the turf doing stuff. We're rolling around on the mat sometimes. We're doing body weight stuff.
Yeah.
We're doing suspension. We're all over the map. But it's just because that's what's fun, you know? So every workout's like a little bit different. But so no competition for you this year?
No competition, at least in 2018.
Right.
There will not be a competition for me. Like I said, I'm still training to build muscle.
Yeah.
Still training to look aesthetic or look Massthetic, as I've defined the look that I'm going for. And we'll see, what 2019 has to bring, or 2020. It's just so yeah. No.
Yeah, I mean, 35. What's cool is some of the bodybuilders in the world have looked their best. Like they've peaked, like right where you are right now. Their body has looked the hardest. I think they have everything dialed in to the point where they've experienced just about everything at that point.
And I think with myself, I've only gotten better over the last few years. Yeah. Because of the knowledge that I've gained, and the muscle maturity. People will argue if that's a real thing or not, but I truly think the more time you can spend building a particular muscle, the more not defined look, but maybe dense or crispness to it, or just a guy that's got 20 years of muscle building. If you took somebody and they had exactly the same dimensions, you took a 22-year-old and a 35-year-old, and everything about them was exactly the same: height, weight, structure, leanness, body fat percentage, everything was identical.
Everything, yeah.
In my opinion, that guy that's 35 is going to look better because there's a maturity, there's a look about the muscle. So I know when the timing is right, my physique will look better than it ever has. The show has to fit into everything else. Yeah, you get your heart.
It actually, as you're saying that, it's really funny because when I years ago I worked for a world gym chain up in Connecticut. And I was the guy opening the gym, and I had some clients there and stuff. But the 5 a.m. I'm in there like opening it and sleeping pretty much at the front desk because I'm so tired. But the trainers that had clients there would come in and usually eat a meal or something right before they'd go out on the floor and train somebody. And a guy that I befriended there, his name was Jamie, and Jamie DeFelice, and he was a Mr. Connecticut. And he was, I think he had already won that title, but he was looking to do another competition, much like you. Mm-hmm. He had some really good success, and he was going to do another one. And he was like a good 4 to 8 weeks into his prep. And one day he comes in and he's sitting there eating a big bowl of eggs and steak. That's big scrambled eggs and steak. And he's eating it, and he's got this look on his face. He looks miserable. And we're just talking, and he looks at me, and he puts his fork down, and he said, "That's it. I'm not doing it." And he got up, and he went down there. He didn't tell me where he was going. He comes back with a thing of donuts, and he just sits there and he starts eating pounding donuts. Yeah. He had lost his drive to do the competition, and he's like, why am I even doing it? He's like, I've done it. It's hard. I enjoy it, but right now it's not the right time for me. So it's got to be the right time.
10 years ago when I started, or even 5 years ago when I was doing shows, like I was at a different place. Like I probably would have fought through it and barreled through it to say, you know what, I can do this. But I've done it. Like I've done shows. Like I have pictures, I have trophies, I have all the accolades that I would ever want. Right. So it wasn't about doing something to prove that I could do it. Like it had to align with everything else in my life. And I respect that guy for making the decision that quick. I don't know if going.
I couldn't believe it. I don't know if going to grab watching this guy totally make this big decision.
I don't know if going to grab the donuts was the right thing to do, but it's funny because
he gave me one though. He did give me one.
It's funny because I went through kind of a very similar thing. Like I'm sitting there yesterday morning, and it's like I'm thinking thinking like, do I do it? And one thing I've tried to condition myself this year is when you're in a position to make a decision and move on.
Yeah.
And something I've implemented is like the 15-second rule at a restaurant. I look at a menu for 15 seconds to decide what I'm going to eat. So I made a decision yesterday and I stuck to it.
Yeah.
And I haven't really thought about if it was the right one yet or not.
Right.
But because I made it, I know it's right.
Right.
And when the timing is right for me to make the next one. One thing I'm excited about, and I don't know if you have mentioned it to your audience, is what we're going to be doing in November here. So being able to now take part in the training for the Savage Race.
Savage Race. Yeah, I haven't even shared that or talked about it anyway.
Or it's a mud run, something that I've never done before, completely out of my realm of training. Yeah. So we're going to see what a 250-pound bodybuilder looks like when trying to run through wet mud.
It'll be so entertaining. I promise you.
So I'm excited because this is going outside of my normal box. So I'm really looking forward to it.
That's going to be great. We're going to have an awesome group of people. Guys and girls, and we're going to get as much of the crew from Criticalbench on board with spouses or whatever, and some of our close friends that come here to train. So that'll be November 10th in Dade City, Florida. So you have to help try and get me to recruit Big Mike into to do it. So tell me just a bit more about your arm training program and Massthetic Muscle, kind of what's your whole plan for people when they see Massthetic Muscle? Like what do you want them to get from it? Like,
I mean this was,
what makes it unique? What makes it different?
Yeah, so when I was trying to come up with, what was I gonna help the world? What was I gonna inspire men worldwide to do? I knew it was related to muscle building.
Yeah.
I knew it was okay. Like there's a place for intelligent muscle building, for proper way to build a great physique, to build a 1% physique, something that stands above the rest of everybody else, whether that's on a stage, whether that's at the beach, at the pool, or simply, in a suit and tie or in a t-shirt. Like there's a look that when somebody walks into a room, they have it. You're like, that guy works hard, he knows what he's doing, and there's like an intelligent approach to doing that. So when I was creating Massthetic Muscle, bodybuilding has this aura around it that it's just mass monsters. It's guys that are just slabs of muscle with no real artistic look or artistic appeal to it. So I wanted to not go that route to where it's just a freaky bodybuilder, but at the same time, it just isn't a skinny guy that has abs. Because as we all know, there's a genetic freak out there walking around right now that's probably eating pizza for breakfast, cereal for lunch, and ice cream for dinner, and he's under 8% body fat, and he's got lean abs, and he's never walked into a gym. Right. So it's finding the blend between leanness, aesthetic appeal, but also a muscular physique, and that's really the aura or the brand that I'm trying to build around Massthetic Muscle. It's looking great on a stage, but it's looking great, in regular clothes. But you can tell that the guy works out. Yeah. Anti-dad bod, I guess you could say. Maybe that's something that you guys talk a lot about.
Yeah. I'm fighting like hell against that, man.
Because surprisingly, it has appealed to an older demographic. I'll be honest with you. When I wrote the program and when I was sitting down thinking of my avatar, I was thinking of a 25-year-old kid. Sure. But the majority of men that are kind of coming into my world now are over the age of 40, which is great because I'm turning 35, in a few months. To know that I can still help men that are just a few years ahead of me is an amazing feeling. So I have my Massthetic Muscle brand. Yeah. This is a complete, done-for-you, 12-week muscle building program. Literally everything you need over the course of 90 days to transform your body from the training perspective. Everything we talked about today from the progressive overload aspect is written into the program. There's a complete execution guide. So making sure that you're starting by learning that neurological based training. So there's over 80 exercises, I think, that are done for you in there. And I give you a step-by-step setup, taking you through setup, stabilization, execution, and just how the thought process behind the movements. There's a 3-phase metabolic fueling system, which is the nutritional component of it. So I believe the most important time of the day when trying to build muscle or transform your physique is the time pre, during, and post training. What you're consuming in and around your workout is going to play the biggest role in how you transform your body. So that's included in there for you as well. There is a metabolic conditioning circuit as well. So depending upon where you're at in your physique, if you're coming into the program, you need to lose a little bit more body fat than maybe the next guy. There's a metabolic conditioning circuit, a series of workouts to do to just increase the overall, HIIT metabolic intensity level. So that's all done for you as well. And then 60 unique workouts programmed through 3 cycles of training. The neurological based training, the hypertrophy, which is the middle of the program, strictly focused on building as much muscle as possible, at the cellular level. So increasing the cell size of your muscles. And this is where I'm going to take you through all 5 tiers of the training. So we're going to increase frequency first, and then we're going to really get into the volume-based training. Then we're going to get into the density protocol, where you're really going to utilize a lot of supersets. And obviously, the whole time we're playing a component, we're increasing loads. And then the third phase is a 4-week metabolic conditioning circuit. So this is really dense work. Everything is supersets, everything is trisets, still utilizing those prime movements that we did at the beginning. So that's done for you. 12 weeks. I'm sure you guys have a link that you can throw up there for that. What's been interesting though is what's really been the biggest opportunity for me to help people is now through an arm training program.
Because all guys want
big
an
arms.
extra inch on their arm.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a 30-day program or 30-day challenge that I created. Called Mass-tetic arms. It's based on a principle that I created called neurological frequency training, which the science behind it is training the same muscular group twice within a 24-hour period. And what that does, so you have your prime workout, which would be workout A. So on day 1, you do a biceps and triceps, or you do a bicep workout. Then the next day, within a 24-hour window, you do a feeder-based protocol workout. So not a heavy volume workout, very dense work. So a lot of work done in a very short period of time. These are 10-minute workouts that you're doing. So you're able to hit that muscle twice within that 24-hour window. And what's unique about it is what happens inside the body at the muscular level is very interesting. Three things take place. So by training it the second time within the 24-hour window, you actually increase your protein synthesis response. So typically, when you train a muscle, you have that protein synthesis response for 48, maybe 72 hours, depending on kind of where you are. And then from there, you're no longer anabolic. You now fall almost into a state of being catabolic. So if you can train it for a second time within that 24-hour window, you're actually able to add 12 to 24 hours to that protein synthesis response. So now you've extended your muscle building process by almost a full day. So that's very unique, is that happens, and that's the best thing about the neurological frequency training. The second thing is your enhanced feedback, or your ability to connect with that muscle. I'm sure you've had workouts where maybe you've trained legs or you've trained arms, and you're just more aware of that the next day. Like if you train your bicep and you go to reach something off the shelf, you're like, oh, I feel my bicep like I've never felt it before. So you get that enhanced feedback. Now, what that does as far as your execution and your form is that second workout, you're just so much more aware of it. So you're like able to connect better with it. And that's the third thing as well, is the enhanced feedback, or the improved mind to muscle connection that you get. So that's my Massthetic arms program. Like I said, it's giving guys an inch growth on their arms in 30 days, sometimes less. And it's all based upon these short 10-minute workouts.
Awesome.
So it's been amazing, because just in a few short months, this thing has really exploded. And it's really helping a lot of men see some incredible results. And like you said, every guy wants bigger arms, and every girl out there that's listening wants her guy to have bigger arms. So it's
I just want my guy to have skinny, bony arms to put around
no
me.
girl walking around this earth wants to hold on to a guy's arm that feels like a spaghetti noodle.
No, I don't think so. And what's cool is, so for anyone that wants something free from Frank, you can grab something right now. It's a free report that you wrote. that's actually on our website, and but people listening can grab it right now. It's 3 tips for building lean mass. And if you go to www.criticalbench.com/lean-mass, so criticalbench.com/lean-mass, you can get a free report written by Frank. And there's 3 great muscle building tips in there. And actually, I think inside there, it takes them right to the Massthetic Muscle program.
Yeah, everything is linked up in
Learn
there.
more about it,
Questions, so
it's fantastic. Well, it's been a terrific privilege to have you here. I mean, we see you often enough. It was time to sit you down in the room here and help you or get you to share some knowledge to help our audience out. Because I mean, heck, it doesn't matter how long you've been in this game, and I've been around the fitness and health industry for a long, long time. But there's always something more to learn or to kind of like, moments. I've been lucky enough to be around some really intelligent people like the Charles Poliquins of the world and stuff. That he was very influential actually when I was a trainer in my early 20s. But if you're not implementing stuff and you're not hearing it over and over again and you're not around it as much, stuff it goes in one side, it stays for a while, and it comes out the other side.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's really good. It's why you are being so close to like a Ben Pakulski, like certain mentors, because they really keep you on point with your journey and keep that knowledge and that wisdom. It's just fantastic. So I really do appreciate it, and we'll definitely have you in again, probably for something that comes to mind later in the year. That's in another phase of muscle building. But so Frank, Rich, Massthetic Muscle, you can go to YouTube, you can see videos with him, and it's been terrific, and we'll see you again real soon, my friend.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.